Hello everyone, this is the beginning of my Speedpaint DTIYS challenge, and I'm here to comment on all the struggles and all the things that I went through to create this DTIYS. DTIYS is a Draw This in Your Style challenge, and you're going to see the reference image that I chose to do this DTIYS in. I really loved the character, and the artist is someone pretty relatively well known on Instagram, and her name is Hailey O'Neill. I'm not going to try and damage her name by trying to pronounce it. However, her overall aesthetic is adorable, and I wanted to try an interesting take on her Draw This in Your Style challenge by coming up with something that was unique and hadn't been thought of. I had no idea where this idea came from, but you'll see the original eventually. If not, then I can just show it to you here. So basically, the original is a depiction of a pen and a paint bucket, and somehow I got girl in a bath. I have no idea how I got girl in a bath, but apparently I did. It was my idea to come up with something creative just out of the blue. I wanted to bring the half white, like half completely loss of color side, and then the other half where there was a lot of color, vibrancy, if that's even a word. A lot of vibrance. Yeah, that should be it, right? Anyway, a lot of vibrance, a lot of tone, and I wanted it to be really gorgeous and aesthetic on one side. But I didn't want the other side to just look empty and blank. I wanted there to be substance to like the whole of the piece. And even though the original artist had very colorful line art, it felt like with my composition something was missing, so I decided to go for this. Now you'll see what I'm talking about as you look through and reach the end of the Speedpaint. Please do not skip to the end because I want to explain my process. As you can see, that was just a pop-up of the original artwork. It was really adorable and I wanted to create something amazing with it. So I took the same design of the shirt, and I didn't take the skirt. I used the color of the skirt to create the frills, and I took the design of the shirt and put it onto the bathing suit because she's in a bathtub, and I wouldn't know like how to add any of the elements if I drew her without any clothing, so obviously I put her in a bathing suit. You can see here that I don't know if you spotted it, but I actually switched from Krita to Photoshop. I've had Photoshop for a very long time, honestly, and I've been avoiding using it because of simply the fact that I didn't know how to. But then I realized that truth and reality, Photoshop has a lot of amazing features that we us illustrators can take advantage of, and I wanted to use that as well as the fact that Photoshop only has a couple of basic components that we need as illustrators to create an artwork, and that as well as so much more. If I had a software that had the basic components of what I needed to create plus so much extra, and Krita had that, but there were some things that it didn't have that Photoshop did, I might as well take advantage of Photoshop. So, I checked out the software, and during the Speedpaint, you're going to see me checking out brushes, trying to figure things out, trying the paint buckets a couple of times. And I'd actually thought that Krita, with the paint bucket, it has like this little line around it that makes it look messy, and I end up having to paint the whole thing by hand. And I tried using Photoshop, and originally I thought that the paint bucket would work, but it didn't. So I tried instead to just color the whole thing by hand, which turned out tiring. Another thing you probably realize by now is I've talked about the half color, half no color, and yet I still decided to. I didn't even decide. It's just that I'm so used to coloring everything without leaving one side out that I actually ended up coloring the whole skin and actually almost accidentally colored the whole hair and the bathing suit before having to erase it, and then finally I managed to erase it before I applied the design so I didn't waste too much time. I'm really glad that I managed to catch that because that would have been very troublesome. Now, as you can see, I'm trying to incorporate some of the lighting on her collarbone and I'm doing the basics of the skin tone. Now, I'm really used to using the airbrush, or what do you call it? Blur? The cotton brush? Cotton swab? You know what I'm talking about. You should know what I'm talking about. I'm used to using that in Krita. But Photoshop's blur doesn't work exactly the way I had anticipated it, and because I'm new to Photoshop, I didn't know how to find a workaround with that, so I just tried to be really careful with soft brushes and just be so good with them that I didn't end up having to use the blur in the first place. You could see me struggling with it like on the shoulder and on the leg there. It was a bit difficult to use. So a good amount of this Speedpaint I'm going to be talking about, not rush my words. I'm going to be talking about my transition from Krita to Photoshop and some of the things that I had to get used to along with the process of Speedpaint. I hope you like the I guess you could say stars in the hair. I love adding sparkles and stars to everything, so you're going to see that a lot. And the eye, I wish I had made the eye look a little bit more gentle and more fragile, but it looked a bit dull, like it didn't look very realistic, and I may have wanted to fix that a little bit. I also added a little bit of yellow to the flowers because the white just seemed a little bit bland to me. Anyway, for now, that's all I have to talk about, and I'm going to get back to you when I reach my favorite part of the Speedpaint, which is the water. You'll be seeing that soon. Actually, you're probably going to see it now. I don't think I need to stop. So this is where I fill it out, and I learned how to use mask layers in Photoshop pretty quickly, fortunately, with the help of the internet. So I filled it out, gave it the same color as the background, and this is where I start painting in the water. Now, I was looking for a brush for a very long time that could help me just, do a quick water thing, but I couldn't find anything. And then I ended up looking at a lot of reference photos about baths and water in baths and people in baths, and I didn't see any brush that would be able to help me achieve that kind of texture, so I ended up hand painting the whole thing with the water, and I'm actually pretty proud of myself. I'm not going to toot my own horn or anything, that's not what I want to do, but I'm very proud of myself for actually painting the water bit by bit with the help of like a little bit of brushes. I actually painted most of the water by hand, if not all of the water, and got that texture like through a bit of creativity, which I'm kind of proud of myself about. Another thing that I'm really happy I took note of was the, I guess you could say, smudging / movement of the line art that helped it to give that like underwater texture, like obviously how things are warped underwater. I'm really glad that I took notice of that. I was gonna try and apply like the same warping of the color to the stem, as you noticed that I took it back because it looked easy. And then I obviously added highlights to make it look like that part of it was underwater, and I started to add like little dots, little bubbles to add a little bit of texture. And then I added water droplets on top of her. And true, the water droplets are a little bit thick. I could have improved a little bit with that, but that's what I overall come with. And then I moved from that to the pipe. The pipe was there for a reason. It was pouring water in, So I really like how that came out. By the way, the pipe pouring water into the bath. I think that came out really well. So I'm pretty proud of that, and I'm pretty proud of how the bathing suit ended up under the water. Also, as you can notice at this stage, change the color of the line art to the same as the reference with hues of pink, blue, and purple. And I also really like how that turned out, but I figured that it was too empty, so in the end, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned this before, I added something. And there's a little secret, that we're not going to talk about, which is that, I may or may not have neglected to perfectly shade the bathing suit. I forgot to shade the side and shade the underneath the boobs and whatnot. We don't talk about that we move on from that. I'll definitely remember to do that another time. But we can just step on from that. Anyway, at this point I was coloring the bath and I wanted to give it a slightly off-white color, but I also wanted to give it enough substance. I also wanted to give the bath this elegant, bold, gorgeous look because I just feel like it fit with the whole aura of the painting in itself. And looking back in hindsight, I do like the eye, but I think I should have softened down the black line art a little. This is pretty much where I'm finishing off, and then after this point where I figure out how to combine and blend the brushes, this is where I start to meddle with the other side a little bit because I feel like it's a little bit empty. So you're gonna see that where I apply the water texture and it looks like somehow colorless, but yet white water is pouring on the other side and some of the color from one side is bleeding into the other. Anyway, after I struggle with these brushes, you'll see that in just a moment. I really like that effect and I hope that overall you appreciate it as well. This is where I'm going to conclude and I'll leave you to enjoy and think about the process. If you have any things that you can tell me that you think needs to be improved or anything that you appreciate, or if you want to see more of my art, please check out my Instagram, subscribe, and I hope you love the end product. I'm doing a challenge soon, so check that out as well. I'll be releasing it this week, and I will see you later. Goodbye!